Making art is a bit like making magic. This lump of clay has within it something wonderful. What might it be? Do you see it happening right in front of your eyes? Well, that is what artists do. They take things and turn them into something new, something that has never been seen before. At least not exactly like that. You can do it too. You can create magic with your hands. Ready to begin? Hi, I'm Maureen Carlson. I'm here to show you how to make a clay unicorn using Model Magic soft, squishy modeling material. The materials that you will need for this project are 1 ounce of white Model Magic, just a pea-sized piece of green, a pea-sized piece of red, something to cut with, some flat toothpicks, something to poke with. This paintbrush handle also works. And 2 little black beads for eyes. You can make these from black Model Magic. You can purchase some beads. You can make those from polymer clay. Or you could just make them from white Model Magic and then paint them afterwards with watercolor or watercolor markers. Wait till it dries though. I know you're probably eager to start, but don't open your package of Model Magic yet. I'll tell you why. Model Magic dries very fast. So once you open it, you need to keep it covered in plastic unless you're using it so that you can slow down the drying process. It's wonderful that Model Magic dries so fast because it allows you to keep working. However, just be careful with the plastic bag. Now there are some other things to remember about Model Magic. One is that it's quite stretchy and it sticks to itself very easily. If you happen to have 2 different colors in your hand, like let's say I had the red and green in my hand and I held them next to this, I would not be able very easily to get it apart. See how it sticks? So you want to be careful about that. Next thing, if it dries too fast, you can take a little bit of water and put it on it and rub it in and then mix it all in and twist it all in so that the soft stuff in the middle gets mixed up with the dry stuff on the outside. Just remember the water, not too much. You may have wondered about that cutting tool that I showed you. This is a piece of plastic that was cut from a deli carton lid. Let me show you what I did. If you're not old enough yet to use a big pair of scissors, have someone help you with this. But I took this deli carton lid, this is from yogurt, and I cut all around the outside till I got the middle out. Then cut the middle in half, cut that in half, cut that in half, trim the edge so we have a nice little curved part. This is for making the mouth on our unicorn, and this straight edge is for cutting. Now you have a little cutting tool that you can put in your toolbox, and you can make a new one anytime that you lose this one. I find that the white ones or colored ones work better than the clear ones because I keep losing the clear ones, but either will work. Now let's open that Model Magic. Get that clay out of there. I think I'll have to use scissors to get this out. I'm going to take out the whole package because I need to measure it so I know that I will have enough for all of the different parts of the unicorn. Here is an easy way to measure. Take the clay and stretch it out so you have a log of clay that is about the length of a sheet of computer paper. Then take your cutter, cut it in half. Then take and just cut, see how long this is, just cut a little piece. You can always add to it later if you need more. This is the head. This is the body. I need to cut 4 pieces for legs. If you take a pencil and lay it there, cut on both sides of the pencil. So there's one leg. Take another pencil, there's another leg. Another pencil, there's another leg. There's another leg. Those are looking like really skinny legs. But see how this one is really little? It's really easy just to add a little more clay to that one so that we have bigger legs. So now we have 4 legs. When we put this little unicorn together, we can see if we need to add more to any of those parts. Now the rest of this clay, you're going to pull out a little pea-sized piece. That's for an ear. Another little pea-sized piece, that's for another ear. Another pea-sized piece, maybe double pea size. So a little bigger than the ear parts. This is for the unicorn horn. The rest of this will be for the mane and the tail. I'm going to very quickly put this part back in the plastic bag so that it doesn't get dried out too soon. Put that here. I'm going to use these very soon, so I'm not going to put those into the plastic bag quite yet. I want to show you something. Let's take a look at these 2 unicorns that I've already made. And you can see right away there's a difference between them. This one, by the way, that noise in the background was my dog Willow. Maybe Willow can say hi in a bit. I rolled each of the legs into a little ball so I could see if they were kind of the same size. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is take the piece for the unicorn horn. I'm going to roll it into a long, skinny rope. Sometimes people want to measure exactly how much they'll need for each part. I'm a big believer that you don't have to measure exactly because everything you create by hand is a little bit different than the next thing that you make. Now see how I'm taking that long skinny rope and I'm wrapping it around one of these flat toothpicks. I'm wrapping it to the end, still on the toothpick, rolling that a little bit so that that all sticks together. And if I want it pointy, I can pinch it so it's pointy. I'm going to use my thumbnail to cut off some of that extra. Now we're going to put this aside and let this dry because it will be easier to put into our unicorn's head if that horn is hard before we put it in. Let's take a look at these 2 unicorns again. If you are in a hurry to make your unicorn and you want to make it all right at one time, make this one that's lying down. If you have the patience to wait for about 4 hours to let the legs and the body dry before you have the head, then make this one. You'll have to choose if you have 1 ounce of clay and you want to make this size of unicorn. You'll have to decide if you want it to lay down or if you want it to stand up. I'm going to show you how to make the laying down one first because I have more than 1 ounce of Model Magic. I'm going to put this one aside. I'll show you this one. You're going to pick the part for the body. Going to squish it all together so that anything that's dry on the outside starts mixing in. Then roll it in a ball and keep rolling it until all of the wrinkles go away. There's still a wrinkle there, so I'm going to roll it some more. There we go. Now, if I take my hand and I put it so that my hand is like this, coming together here, and a little bit tight here, and not so tight there, and if I roll back and forth, I get something that looks like a cone. Should we do that again? And you can practice it with me. So we have a squishy piece of clay. We're going to roll it in a ball. Put your hands so that they're like this go down on top of that, but keep this side together. You're going to roll back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, not too hard. Then we're going to get something that looks like a cone. If I take this and I take this part and tilt it up a little bit, I have the body for my unicorn. You can shape that a little bit. If you want this fatter or this fatter, you can push it together or pull it apart. So there's the body. Looks a little bit like a whale, doesn't it? You take a flat toothpick, you're going to break it in half. You're going to put a little bit of that toothpick in there so it sticks out about that far. You're going to set that aside for a little bit. Now let's make some legs. Here's my head. Let's put the head right there. It's not quite time yet to get a head. We're going to take each of the legs, you're going to roll them into a little rope. And if you decide you want longer legs, you can just take some of that clay that you had left over for your mane and your tail. So we're going to have 4 legs. And these are all sort of the same size. I'm going to use these 2 that are a little bit bigger for the back legs. First thing you can do is make a hoof. So hold it up like this, push it down on the table just a little bit, take your finger, sort of push like that. So see how that made it look like a little hoof? Then I'm going to roll this. I'm going to hold it, so I'm holding it very gently right by the hoof and at the top, so the middle is not being held, and roll back and forth. See how I got a little knee? Let me show you that again with one more of them. So I'm going to push down for the hoof. There's a little hoof. I'm going to hold it right there and right there, so there's a space in the middle that's empty. We'll roll back and forth gently. You're going to get a little knee. I'm going to lay that one there. I'm going to show you one more time, and then we'll do the 4th one off camera. So I'm making the hoof. I want to show you what happens if you have a real heavy hand and you push too tightly, because this clay is so soft. If you're kind of nervous and you're like, oh, I'm scared, and you push too tightly, oh, that's what happens. But with this kind of clay, it's really, really easy to roll it back in a ball and start again. As we're making this unicorn, it's fun to pretend that we're outside in the garden. And some of those sounds from the garden are actually coming into our video because we're filming this in the studio on the banks of Sand Creek, which is where we live. You can hear the birds. You can hear the little bit of traffic. You can hear the wind. And you can hear the water. Now back to these unicorns. Now we have 4 legs. Let's put these legs on our body. But how is the unicorn going to sit? This one has its legs crossed in front of it. Let's see if I can do it differently this time. I'm going to fold this one so it's got a bent leg. We'll bend that one that direction. Those of you that have horses or unicorns at your place may have ideas how they should sit based on what you've seen. So there, it's got its little crossed legs there. Then I'm going to have both legs coming out here a little bit. There's one there. I'm going to put this one, oh, let's bend this one a little bit. We're going to put this one right there. Oh dear. Does that little unicorn look comfortable or a little bit confused? But remember, once the clay is onto something, it's stuck. I can't really pull that off now without wrecking it. Now I'm going to set that aside for a minute. There, just rest. We're going to make the head. So now we have this ball for the head. Because it's been sitting for a little bit, I'm going to mix it up again to get it softer. Some of that soft, squishy stuff on the inside all mixed into the outside. Roll a ball. Once again, I'm going to take my hand and make it into that V shape, come over on top of this, roll it a little bit, So I have a little bit of a point, but we all know that unicorns don't have pointed noses, they have pointed horns. So I'm going to push that in a little bit. Then right halfway up, I'm going to roll it a little bit, right like that. So now we have a bigger part, looks a little bit like a skull, but a bigger part where the brain is and where the eyes will be, and a smaller part where the nose is. Now we're going to take that cutting tool and we're going to push in just a little bit where we want the mouth to be. And it's squished in the nose quite a bit, so I'm going to pull it out a little more. There we have our little nose. I'm going to take this little poking tool. I'm going to poke a little smile right there and another little smile right there. Now I'm going pretty fast with this video. You can rewind it and watch it over and over so that you can catch up if I'm going too fast. I'm going to poke a place for it to smell. It looks like a little smile with eyes, doesn't it? But just a minute, we're going to put the other eyes in here. So there's our shape. Looks like that. Now this unicorn, notice this one has a different shape a little bit. This one has a really long nose and a little wider smile. You can decide how you want yours to be. Now I'm going to take the pokey tool and decide where the eyes will be. You can have them on the front the way this one is, or you can have them on the side the way this one is. A real horse or a real unicorn would have them on the side because they don't look straight ahead like people do. They look from one side or the other. I'm going to put these on the side, one there and one there. So now we have a little pokey hole. I'm going to take those two eyeballs and we're going to push one in there and one in there. There we go. So now we have our little head. I'm going to check and see if my toothpick is too long, if it will come through the top of the head. I think it's a little bit long, so I poked it down a little bit more. And I'll poke a little hole in the back of the unicorn's head and put the head onto the toothpick or onto the neck. And then we can turn our little unicorn around and see if we like how it's sitting. We can go down because the body isn't hard yet. We can turn it this way so he's looking backwards. That's kind of cute, have him look backwards. I'm going to get this little guy out of the way for a minute. There we go. Now, so he looks like that. I think I'm going to have him do this, like that. Now, because this is all still soft, be really careful when you move this that you're not squeezing it. One thing you can do is take a separate piece of paper. So if you want to turn it around, you can turn the whole paper and not have to keep picking it up. So now we have that. Well, I'm going to let the head dry a little bit. While the head's drying, I'm going to work on the tail and the mane. So take your leftover clay that you have, take a piece of it, and roll a rope. We're just going to take a little piece of it, work with a little bit at a time. Roll a rope that is about as thick as, well, let's see what that would be as thick of. It's about a third. It's not as thick as a pencil. It's much skinnier than a pencil. And it doesn't have to be exact. So I've got this rope. I'm going to cut it in pieces. I've rolled all of these pieces, different sizes, different lengths. I'm going to flatten each one. Just flatten it with your fingers and twist it. We'll do that again. You're going to flatten it with your fingers and then twist it. When you have about 5 of them all twisted, stick them together at one end just by pushing them together. If they've gotten really dry because you've been a little bit slower in doing this, you can put a little tiny bit of water there where they stick together to help them stick. So now we have a little group. Now these are going to be a lot easier to put onto the unicorn if they're in a group rather than adding them all separately. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn it upside down, figure out where I think the tail is going to be, put it on upside down, and then flip it back over to cover up where I stuck it on. See how that went on there like that? I've made more groups of 5. I'm guessing that if I use 3 groups of 5, that will be enough. In fact, that might be enough, but let me put one more back on this back side. There we go. We'll flip that over for there. And so we'll have some of the tail coming around there. I have some of these groups of 5 left over. These will be for the mane. I'm going to set those aside. Let's put some ears on. To make ears, I'm going to take this little ball of white. I'm going to roll a ball. Roll on one side of the ball like that. See how I rolled on one side? Make it pointed. Then flatten it. And then pinch it together so it looks a little bit like a flower petal. I'll do the other one and watch me. I'm going to roll a ball. I'm going to roll on one side to make it a little bit pointed. Then flatten it. Then pinch it together so it looks a little bit like a flower petal. I'm going to take those 2 ears, take our pokey tool, and this time I'm going to use the bigger flat end. I'm going to decide where I want the ear to be, and then I'm going to poke a hole right there, and then turn this a little bit. There's one ear. I'm going to take the other one, lay it in place, poke it with that pokey tool. Try to do so without touching the mouth or the nose, or you'll kind of wreck that. And then we can kind of turn those ears so that it's listening. Maybe it's listening to the birds. I'm going to push that eyeball in. It's coming out a little bit. Go in, go in, go in. There we go. So now there's our ears. Now we can take that horn. If it's dry enough, you can take a hold of the horn and break that toothpick right just a little bit lower than the horn. Try not to squash the horn if it isn't dry yet. I'm going to poke a little hole where I want that horn to be. I'm going to put it right there, right in the middle of the forehead. Ouch! Now we're going to poke that in and stick that in right there like that. Yep, that's good. And then the ears come around that like so. I'm going to move the head a little bit because this is all soft. I'm pushing that neck down a little. I'm going to stretch that neck up a little because I can still do that. There we go. So now we have that much. Now we'll start putting the mane on. Now we're going to put the mane on the same way we did for the tail. You're going to put it on backwards, hold it in place, and then flip it over to cover up where you stuck it on. So I'm going to put these 3 sets on. So those of you that love math, what's 3 times 5? You can do some math while you're doing art. And we're going to put this one on. Put it back there. So now let's see how it looks from the front. So we've got this. But now let's make some more because we need some pieces to come up around the horn and the ears. I've made some more groupings of mane. I'm going to pick this up with my toothpick because it's hard for me to get my fingers in there. I'm going to put a little piece right there to cover up some wrinkles on its neck. See how that covered that up? Now we're going to take some little pieces and stick those around the horn. And sometimes I can use my fingers. Let's see. You'll have to see what works for you. Your fingers are smaller than mine. Maybe. Maybe your grandma is helping you make this, or your mom, or your dad, or your grandpa, or your brother. I sort of like that little curl right in the middle of its forehead there. Now we're going to put some more. I guess these got a little bit dry, so I'm going to have to pinch these to get them soft again. Push that in there. I can kind of move these around. There, I like that. See how every time you do this, your unicorn will look a little bit different than the first one that you made. Of course, like I said before, with this 1 ounce package, you will only have room enough clay to make one unicorn of this size. This Model Magic also comes in 4 ounce packages and 8 ounce packages. This one that I used was from something called a school pack. So if you're doing this with a group of people, you might want to order it as a school pack, and then you get all these little packages of the Model Magic. See how I'm using the tool to sort of poke that in place? There we go. I'm going to pull that around. Another thing that really works well sometimes is you can use a paintbrush to move things around. See how I can move that with a paintbrush, and then I'm not making a hard mark. So there, now we have our little unicorn that looks like that. Now this one that I made a couple of days ago is hard already. Notice that this one doesn't have any flowers or leaves on it or ribbons, where this big tall one that's standing up does have the flowers and the ribbons. You get to decide if you want to add that or not. I'm going to show you how to do that in case you want to make some roses or flowers or something. You're going to take some red clay, or if you have pink, you can just use pink, but I had a big package of red. So I can take a little bit of this red, just a little bit, and mix it in with a bigger piece of white, and we're going to mix that all together. You might even want to leave it a little bit stripy. It's kind of pretty. You like that? I love the mixing part. I'm going to leave this a little bit mixy, a little bit modelly. Now, I'm going to make a ribbon first. If I make a rope, and this is pretty much just the way we made the mane, where we just flattened it. You're going to flatten that, and you can twist it or not. So we have this. I'm going to fold it in half in the middle and use my pokey tool to poke this. Ooh, where should we put this? Put it with its tail? Maybe with its tail, right there. So I'm going to put that in place, and we're going to lift that. There we go. So now it has a little ribbon in its tail. I'm going to take another little piece of white and stick it there to cover up where the ribbon started. We'll make this all curly. Now let's add some flowers. If you roll a little ball of clay and then make a rope and then flatten it, and it's a little bit wider than what the pieces were for the mane and the tail, then pick it up. Roll it up very softly, very gently. Don't squeeze it. Just roll it around. Then take your fingers and pinch the bottom of it. You're sort of turning it into, well, you are turning it into a little flower on a stem. So now we have this little rose. You're going to take your toothpick, poke it right in the middle. I'm going to take off that bottom piece. Put it right there. Well, I guess it has to be there because I already touched it there and it's sticking to the horn. I can't pull it off. So there's that little flower right there. Now let's add some leaves. Now you could still add more petals and ribbons and all kinds of things in there if you want to. But I'm going to take some leaves. I'm going to take my green, mix it up because it got a little bit dry. I'm going to make 3 leaves, so I'm pulling off, I'll make 5 leaves. 1, 2, 5 pieces. The way I make a leaf, and there are many ways to do it, but this is how I do it, is roll a ball. So we have a ball. Roll on one side so it's pointed. Now make it flat. Now it's flat. Take your pointy tool, your pokey tool, and see how it's sort of wrapped around that a little bit? I can take that and I can put it right where I want it to be and whirl this around so it loosens, because the clay doesn't like to stick to wood. There it is. There's my leaf. I'm going to make these other 5 put those in place. Some more ribbons. These are a little bit thicker. I'm going to add these right in the back here so that there's something interesting happening on this side of our little unicorn. I'm just going to curl those a little bit. Then I will put another little piece of white right there to cover up that little messy spot right there. And there we have it. Our little unicorn is done except for the drying, which may take a couple of days if it's really humid like it is in Minnesota right now. It may take longer for it to get dry all the way through. Once it's dry all the way through, it will be pretty hard, but it will still break if you're not careful with it. So this is our little completed unicorn. Let's see all three of these together. They all look a little bit different. Oh, but wait, how do we make this one stand up? To make the standing up unicorn like this one, we're going to start the same way we did with the lying down one, make 4 legs and a body. But this time, we're going to take these flat toothpicks, we're going to thread that clay onto there. So notice how I'm gently holding the leg, sticking the toothpick straight down into it. If you don't go straight and you come through the side, don't worry about it, because you can always wad it up in a ball and start over. Now, I'm holding the toothpick. I'm going to push down on the bottom to create a hoof. Then roll in the middle to create a knee. So it looks like that. With a little crooked knee. He got a little injury there. Let me do one more. You're going to take your toothpick and your leg. You're going to thread that leg onto the toothpick. Then make the hoof. My dog Willow is getting impatient in there. I think she needs to take a walk. Or maybe she wants to meet the unicorn. Now I'm going to roll in the middle to create the knee. And we'll do this with all 4. I have 4 legs. Take your body. If you want to, you can poke where you want those legs to go. So you have, there we go, right there. Put the legs in. Right now everything is still soft. Now notice when I poke, sometimes the toothpick comes through the bottom a little bit. Another thing that happens sometimes is when the clay dries, when Model Magic dries, it shrinks a little bit. Sometimes you have to come back with a scissors after everything is dry and cut off the bottom of the toothpick because it starts coming through. Now we have 4 legs on there. You're going to make sure they're pushed up into the body so it's really on there. Then we're going to move him around and make him stand up. Her. I keep saying her. It could be a her or a him. Once you're comfortable with how it's standing, you're going to put in the toothpick for the neck to hold on the head. Then you're going to let this dry for 4 hours or overnight. Why? I'll show you why. Let's say you're trying to decide, okay, I want this guy to sit in a different way. Oh my gosh, look at the toothpick started coming through. Or let's say you go, oh, let's put the head on here. I want it to sit up like this. And then gradually, because the clay is still soft, it's going to start collapsing down. This one I made a couple of days ago and it's hard already. So this one I can actually touch and move around, and unless I push really hard, the toothpicks aren't going to come through. And I can go ahead and put a head on and work on the mane and all of those things. I can't move the neck anymore though. I can't change the angle of this. So before it dries, make sure you get the angle of the neck the way you want it to be. Now, one of the cool things about Model Magic is if you take fresh clay and want it to stick to dried clay, look, it sticks. So you can add to the already dried clay. Then you would go ahead and finish the standing up unicorn with the mane and the tail, maybe in a different way than this one was done, but some way that you like it, and you are done. You have made a unicorn. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Here's to the magic of art and the wonder of creating something with our own hands. Have fun.